So, Ivy, camera on you.
Okay, yes. Well, welcome everyone to this session for the Unconference. We are this time with Shala and with almost all the team. I don't know, I'm not sure, but a huge part of the team is here to present a really new app to match people. So we will explore all the features. As we know, or may know, all our on-conference sessions are sponsored by General Magic, Giveth, Commons Stack, and Giga. Well, without no going further, the floor is yours. Go ahead, guys.
Yeah, thank you. I can say welcome from my end because I have been in touch with Max to set this all up. But I think we will begin with Roman, who is one of the many people behind Shala, just correcting my introduction, but one of the key persons, I must say. Of course, we have been meeting with you since 2 years now to develop what you will now present to us. Please tell us a few words about Shala as a platform of platforms and why you were interested in story matching.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Rainer. Uh, so Shala is actually a network built and owned by users. So at some point it has to get started. The users don't come all together to build it, right? So we are Rainer, me, Stefan, and a community of users are the first. And we build it with the principles of mutual ownership, right? And so how we do that is through an open environment for people to build solutions, right? And one of the solutions we're going to be talking today is StoryMatcher. And then also building a fair system so that the value created by these solutions can be shared with each other, right? And in this aspect, we are really early on. We're still experimenting with tokens, etc. And then third, to build a social structure so that life is at its center. So people feel like they own what they're seeing. So we look at it at a very meta level, and trying to undo some of the imitations or skeuomorphs that the internet has, right? And allowing us to create something that the user feels like they own and they are the center of it. So that's a long way to go. It's a long journey, and we are in the very beginning of it, 2 years in, and we are ourselves learning a lot as we navigate this journey. For what we are trying to do, building the blockchain would be like putting the cart in front of the horse, right? So we're really like passionate about the organization of what a decentralized network would look like. And we're also exploring other the protocols and solutions that allow us to do this quickly and cheaply. An example would be the Solid project, which was started by Tim Berners-Lee, the original inventor of the World Wide Web. And our goal is to use a mix of both blockchain and open specifications like Solid that allow us to already offer user ownership, data ownership in Web 2. Right. So for solutions that are very high security needs, we may actually like pivot to the blockchain. But for the wide variety of solutions, we want to be able to still stay within Web 2 and then be able to offer the user experiences that allow users to own and build together. So that's really what I'm just like admitting Adam back in. So that's really what like Shala is. There's a lot of information on shala.us, and the way we're structured, we have platforms on shala.us, and And Shala is not any special. Shala is just one of the many ecosystems that will be on the network. So anyone can also create something else that looks like Shala.us, right? And then build platforms on top of it. So you're a steward of that ecosystem. And the platforms in that ecosystem can also coexist in multiple ecosystems, right? So that's the idea, that we're not bound. There's no boundaries, right? So we're exploring all of these topics. We are prototyping, we're experimenting as we go. And there's an open invitation to every one of you to join us and to co-create with us. We're really passionate about creating this future of work where people co-create, collaborate, cross-pollinate, and invest in each other. So that's a short intro about Shala. And today, why we're here, and I'll go back to Rainer on this, is to discuss StoryMatcher, which is an incredible high potential solution that came from founded by Rainer and his team, and they worked with us to sorry. They worked with us to deliver the solution, to prototype it and deliver this to like several communities over the last year. And we've done quite a bit with we've done quite a bit of experimentation with it. We've on Shala, we've already delivered StoryMatcher to a large educational community, and based on their StoryMatcher inputs, we've delivered reports to them. This is the next iteration. What we're trying today is to use StoryMatcher to connect users with other users, or to match users with other users. But the potential is much more than that. And Rainer would explain that you could even match users with content, with programs, with jobs, opportunities. So the list goes on. So to talk more about StoryMatcher, I'll go back to Rainer. Thank you, Rainer.
Thank you, Roman. And I'm happy to introduce Stefan, who is working very much on the StoryMatcher together with me and a few other people. And Stefan will share his screen with 1 or 2 slides to give a background to what I will be telling. But I begin with a story. I mean, it all starts with something happening in life. And a long time ago, in another part of my life, I was working with the European Commission, a big intergovernmental or super governmental organization in Europe, and they have something like 30,000 plus people working there, and they have the variety of European cultures all there from most countries in the European continent that sent staff there, and they're all working in some version of legal and policy issues, but in very different traditions. So mainly people don't understand each other there. And I was in charge of designing the job portal for a newly designed system that they now have in place since a while. And the questions I was on, how do people find their next job when they have like a lifelong tenure as an official, but they want to change job every 2 to 5 years or so? And how do they find a job that's meaningful? And I didn't find anything on the whole internet that would basically answer to that requirement. And I found like, is this possible? And then I found that search on the internet is not based on meaning, it's based on keywords, on identity, not on something that's more abstract. So I had an idea myself to solve it, as I didn't find anything already ready. And the idea was, well, if I need to match the desired future of person A with the desired success of manager B and their team, I need something that brings the two in a similarity so that we can make them closer. And your CV, your curriculum vitae, or the job descriptions just don't speak the same language. They don't talk to each other. They don't have anything in common. And that they should be related is kind of an invention by HR, but it's not the reality. So what I was wondering, what could bring it together? And then one morning I woke up and I found like, well, basically what people do when they actually recruit each other is that they both share a story that they want to live with each other. And stories have the nice feature that they contain not only our past, they contain what we tell about in the present, and they contain our desired future. So I felt like, well, let's offer people a bunch of stories they can choose from to show what they want to do or be in the future. So your desired future should be reflected in the stories you select. And then you can do it for yourself, but you can also do it for the new colleague that you want to hire. Or you can, do it for yourself and be found by someone else to become a life partner because you want to share some stories if you want to be so close and intimate with each other. So it felt like a rather universal feature that was still not made digital by anyone. So we got on the task and made it possible that we can do it through a web service like what we now will see on Shala very soon, or you have already played around with yourself before the meeting. So we will see a bit how it works there. But the main principle we found is that it's important to collect stories so that we have a selection of the stories that people tell each other nowadays, or that people experience actually nowadays in various contexts and frameworks. And then we also found that there are not so many stories. There are, in a way, we all live the same stories again and again as mankind, because we have simplified and structured and standardized our experiences so much with this same code of universal civilization that now claims to be everything mankind can do. And let's face it, in a few stories, we can basically tell everything that is possible. So the only difference, but that's still a remarkable difference, is how do we combine this experience in a sequence, in a combination, what do we experience together? So what we found is that if we offer people a set of stories that correspond to more or less everything that people can experience at work at an archetypical level, of course, at a high meta level, not at a very concrete level. But then it speaks through a concretely told story. So you can recognize yourself in the story that someone else has told. And that's basically what we use as a principle here. So if you will see a number of stories on Shala soon after this session, you can make your choice. What is the future that you desire? It's a bit like the invitation to the Trusted Seeds Unconference, where you were kind of choosing which version of the future you're associating with. Here it's a bit more specific. It's very specific moments that you could have experienced. The stories you will read, they have been told by Indonesian scientists, so please take it with a grain of salt and be generous with your own background. So if in case you're neither Indonesian nor scientist, just imagine you would be the main character of the story. And just check with yourself, how does your heartbeat change when you read that story and you imagine you would live what the person is telling there? And when you feel like, oh my God, I want to be this, or, oh, that's exactly what I have already experienced, I want to have more of that, that are so two good answers to say, yep, make this part of your desired storyline. And then what is the match doing? The match basically compares your choice of stories with the choices of stories of the other people in the same pot. So we will match people from the Unconference to other people from the Unconference. And you will see that the moment you have done your story selection, you will meet not with everyone at the same level of congruence. So some people will be 90% similar in their desired stories, and others might be, well, below 50%. So it is a suggested sequence how to make contact with other members from the Unconference in case you don't know them already anyway yet. So that might be a bit of a challenge that you know each other already a bit, but in case you don't, this gives you like a menu, like begin with say Ivy, and then you meet Adam because they come in that sequence on the matching list. And then you will have to find yourself whether actually the matching list that you found in the circle actually makes sense. Like the further you go on the list, you feel like, okay, the context gets a bit shallow, more shallow, it's not so interesting, and so on. And that is kind of what we would ask you feedback for in our experiment here, whether that actually works that way. And the worst thing that could happen is, the biggest risk is that you actually meet a few friends for life or something like that. So meaning there's not much to lose. Maybe Stefan, if you would share a slide, we can speak a bit about what
for the
else we have.
For the more visual people amongst you, we created a few pictures, and we'll make it even easier to understand what Rainer was talking about. I'll share it right now. I hope this works. Does it work?
Yes.
Do you see it? And when I start the presentation, hope you will see it too.
Yeah, that's better.
Where is it again? Here. Can you see it?
Yep.
Great.
Nice and big.
And this is, yeah, StoryMatcher, meaningful connection at scale. It's the friendly company who stands behind it. And here's one of the first pictures. Everything on a picture that Rainer already talked about. Yeah.
Yeah, you see we are collecting stories in story workshops. And then we analyze and code them with a code that works behind the story that allows us to do the match. And the matching can be for friendships and mentors, peer groups. So this is more the community application, but it can also be very professional, like matching people with job opportunities or with learning offers and so on. So actually we have another slide to see the use cases a bit more.
Yeah, it's quite some work. At the bottom, it says a lot of work to gather all these stories and make them, you know, if you read them, they really have to talk to you. And this is not easy to create. And we're still working on that to get as many stories as possible into sets. Yeah, right now we are doing the Indonesian stories. Yeah, here we go on to the use cases.
Yeah, and we have put a few examples here. So we have our own learning platform that has not many courses yet, but we basically have people who take trainings with ourselves, because another part of Friendly is also sharing some of our knowledge with others. So basically we offer some trainings, and we can see at what level of fit towards the training the people who want to do a training actually are. We have a partner, Whitelands, who have a number of job portals based on the same software in many places. There's more than 20 of these job platforms running, and they have just adopted the StoryMatcher as a feature to help larger platforms find jobs in rank of relevance, and not just because they're close in geography or best paid and things like that. So this is one more criterion. They call it cultural fit, meaning you really are wanting to do the same with your future colleagues. And for a community portal, we are right here in trusted seat, shala.us. Like when people who are in the same meeting should find out with whom they should probably hang out a bit, because it might be more interesting than with others. And this, again, is what we would love if you can share your feedback later. Yeah. Stefan, I don't think there's much more to say on the slide, and I think it's time we stop talking and begin listening to your questions, comments, and so on.
Yeah. So, like, take a minute or two, think over what has been said so far by Roman, Rainer, and the introduction words, and yeah, a minute or two, and write down a question and then share it with us. Yes, please.
I mean, you can use the chat, please.
Yes, can write it down into the chat, your question. 1 minute in silence.
I think would be interesting just to see, I mean, you projecting the one that you created for Trusted Seed, so people can see, especially the participants, so they can interact with the platform already if they haven't done it yet.
Yes, maybe Stefan, maybe I can just
That
do a
that
quick...
would be the next step. So yeah.
Before we look at it, let's just take a
Questions
mental
first. Yes,
mental
right.
reflection.
Yes, yes.
Okay, Stefan, first questions and comments come in.
Let's wait another few seconds and just writing into the chat, and we'll gather them and then fit them. As I said, we're gonna co-create from here now the next half an hour, and yes, you can add questions anytime.
Yeah, shall we try to answer a
Yeah.
few questions and allow Fendi to make her comment?
So I would say Adam Boy's question can be answered when we're doing the onboarding on the Trusted G platform, so you can see a few stories, right? Yeah. Does someone want to say something about the comment from Wendy? Maybe Roman?
Yes, it's thank you. I see, I appreciate that you're seeing this big picture, right? So we all know that ultimately at some point Web3 will be mass adopted, and there'll be blockchain will be cheaper, faster to transact, and become a lot secure. But that future is not here yet. But we know that's where we're going. But if you go in there, why can't we just start acting like that already? Why can't we, right? If people talk about user-owned economy, but why are we waiting for the technology to get there to do it, right? And there's a lot, and then you realize there's a lot of work that needs to be done in figuring out how to work together, how to cross-pollinate, how to measure value, measure contribution, measure value, and share it. So that's what we are here for. We want to do that in Web 2, and just assume that Web 3 is already here, and make it very accessible to everybody. So thank you for saying that, Wendy.
Can I add one thing? Can I add it speaking without writing? Raman, you just said something to me that created a connection, and that's why I'm taking over the airwaves for a moment. I was trying to figure out, you said, why can't we do the Web3 behavior in a Web 2 setting? Why can't we do it now? Why can't we be the change, the cultural connections, the openness, the data sharing? It's so interesting because I paused for a minute and thought, well, why haven't we? Why haven't we? And okay, I know why we haven't. And then how did we get there in Web 3? And I think that it's what you said. It's because Web 3 only operates now with the people that have congregated there. They are self-selecting, they are self-story matching. And and now what I so appreciate and so excited about is the sort of, just the way I see it, it's not the truth, the sort of retro engineering you are doing from having been to the future, come back and say, okay, let's build that. How do we generate this equivalent to this self-selection? Totally putting words in your mouth and a USP, but it's the vibe I'm getting, and I'm super excited about it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Wendy.
And Federico's question about privacy, maybe Rainer?
Yeah, I can say something about it. What we actually store is just the link of users with the stories, and we don't publish that. What we actually publish in the end is how you match, and this is only you see it. And of course, people with whom you match, they also correspondingly see you as a match, but they don't know why. So they don't see the stories you selected directly. So we are actually in a very European privacy standard, like rather private than public, and keep the maximum of data in the background and only show what's really helpful for direct use. So Yeah, we want to offer people more opportunities based on their profile rather than check out who is there and sell data on it. And so that's not our business model. We want to be part of the platform model that is not selling the user data, but kind of offering service to users. And then we're piggybacking on that when we do paid applications. Like if people really find the job they're looking for and the recruiter typically has to pay something for a share from the contract fee or so, we get a piece of that cake. So that's something how it works. But it's not on the user data directly. Actually, if we use user data for matching, people basically see increased choices in front of them, but not like ads or so. It's more like, by the way, we have noticed you were interested in finding a new work. Maybe you're also interested in moving to another place. In that case, you can also use that function to see how your StoryMatch would find you the right sort of living companion and I don't know what. So if that would be another option, but then people need to opt in. I mean, we'll not force it on them. We do not do that often. So that is as far as we think on using the data. And otherwise, we do more scientific studies, like how do certain user traits correspond to other traits, and then we have like general insight stuff that, of course, we are not limiting. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
now I would invite everyone here in the room to follow Roman's instructions on how to onboard to the Shala platform. And Roman, is this okay for you?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, great. And in the process, we'll be able to answer Adam's question about some examples, stories. Great. Yeah, everyone, yeah, be invited.
So so let me start by saying that I'm not going to show you the sign up process. It's very, very simple. You will be able to sign up easily using any email address, or I mean, like a much faster sign up would be just using your Google account or Apple account, which will just directly take you and log you in right away. So you don't have to go through the confirming the email address and all that. So you have these options to sign up. So what I'll take you through actually is logging in. So I already have an account. So I'm logging in with that account. And then once I log in, okay, you're going to see the admin view a little bit because I'm an admin on this account on this platform at the moment. So that's a view of all the platforms in our ecosystem, but Trusted Seed. So this, as an admin, I've created this page along with others, but you'll be able to see connections. That's where you need to go to. So this page is set up as the connections page, and you can see this is loading my connection matches based on the story match I've already done. So if you've done the story matcher, whenever you return to this page, you're going to see your connection matches, right? Sorry, I need to like configure this as all. Okay, not the ones that I'm just following. Okay, so yeah. Okay, so you can see there are 13 connections here. That there are 13 users here, and I have 3 connection matches because 3 of them have done StoryMatcher. And so then what I need to do, so if you are a new user, all you have to do is you will see a start StoryMatcher here. You can also redo your StoryMatcher. So redoing a StoryMatcher, I would click here. This will be the same process as if you were to start the StoryMatcher. Okay. And if you were to start the StoryMatcher, you would see the same screen. You see on the left, you would see your storyline, which says there's no story selected yet. Okay. And then you would see a selection of stories over here that you can click on. And when I click on each one of them, I could read them. And as I read them, I don't have to read the whole thing, but I'll be able to figure out if that story resonates with me. It can usually resonate in three ways. If you've done this in the past, even if you're not interested anymore, or if you have done this and would like to do more of this. And 3 is it's new and highly attractive to me. You've never done this, but you want to live this in your future, right? So if that's the case, then you can add it to your storyline. And that story is now in your storyline. and you can keep going on to the other stories that are here and keep reading them to see if you want to select them. If you don't want, you can skip that and go to the next, go to the next one. You can click on here or go down here using the left side menu. This will also work very well on the mobile phone, where you only see the left side and you'll be able to select the stories and read through them. So let's say you went through all the stories and none of these interest you. You could also click the refresh button to select a new set of, to load a new set of stories, right? So I'm not quite sure how many stories are there in the repository. I believe there's quite a lot.
More than
So
50. Yeah.
yeah. So if you have a lot of time and you're just curious to read all the stories, you can just keep refreshing and reading all of them. I haven't done that myself, but the goal here is to get enough stories for the algorithm to be able to place you in their in the backend, right? So that usually takes about 4 to 6 stories, if I'm right. So in this case, say I like this story. I'm reading through another one, and this one I like that too. I did this well in the past. So as long as the algorithm has not gotten enough stories to place you, it'll keep asking you to select a story, right? So let's say finally, like maybe this is it. This is a story which I select that'll get me there. Yes, it is. So 4 stories. It says storyline complete. There is no more stories that can be selected, and then I can now close the application. And you'll see now that you'll see now that I see all of my connection matches, and there's a percentage. Obviously this is just by chance, but I have 2 profiles, and the other person who's matching with me the most just happens to be me myself. That's my second user profile. But however, you can see there are others on here like Stefan that says 70%, Sep 50. These are users. So I'm seeing what I'm seeing, right? The others are not going to see what I'm seeing on my screen. This is what I can see. It's private to me, and I know that these are certain users that have a high match with me. So one thing I'll add here is these numbers make sense only if you have a large number of users, right? So you want to also encourage your friends, other members of the conference to join and do StoryMatcher. And it's only then that the list, the top 5 or the top 10 makes sense to you. So I'll stop here. Just one more point, which is you can also view all the people who are part of the conference by just going down to all connections, right? You'll see all of them here, and these connection matches are the ones who've actually completed StoryMatcher. So you can still see everybody else in the conference, and that's through here. So I'll stop here, and if you have any questions, please let me know. Okay.
This is amazing. So just to kind of continue off my last question, those 50 stories you gathered or created, what was the process of making those like? Off the top of my head, I'm thinking of that book that's like there's only 10 stories in the world or something, and every story is one like new guy in town or something, some sort of like writing simplification I've heard, but just what I could imagine it was like such a task. And all those stories are specific, you said, to Indonesian scientists. So what's this process like?
Yeah, shall I say something to that? We have a story workshop where we invite people to basically sit together, and with Indonesia we didn't travel there, we did it on Zoom in breakout rooms. So we had 4 people meeting in a breakout room, and we had one of our colleagues to sit in to host that breakout room to make sure the process was running well. And everybody was asked to remember just one of their many great success moments in their career so far, like a moment when they felt like a bit jubilant about a difficulty they had overcome, something that was not easy to achieve. And what would that be, and how did they get there? And then people tell each other the stories. And we also ask the people who listen to the stories to really listen well and give some feedback to the storyteller. So you share a story, you get some feedback back from your listeners, and you're also paying back by giving feedback to the others who are telling their story. So after that, you typically feel like a bit lighter, in a sense, kind of you feel great because you could share one of your success secrets. You got validation from others who were basically, finding that you did great as well, because they were so much in awe of your story. So it is a highly motivating thing. So if you do this in organizations, people who leave, they would say, oh, this was a workshop where I didn't lose any second. This was really valuable and so on. Because people love to actually be listened to for what they actually experience. So we offer that very human need is met. And we actually record the story, and then we can analyze them and edit them and so on, so that the stories you read now in the StoryMatcher application is not the exact story that people told, but it's very much inspired by the plot of the story, and then we change a few data so that we cannot recognize who was the original storyteller anymore. However, the story as such, we keep it. So in that sense, we know that the stories that we are collecting are actually stories that are possible in this universe, because at least one person could experience that. Actually, we find that many people experience more or less the same stories. So that's why we don't need a data of a few million stories in a database, but actually with 50, 60 stories in a data set, we cover enough variety of stories for quite a range of people.
That's amazing. Thank you. I apologize
You're
if
welcome.
I'm making you guys jump ahead. You guys probably have this all planned out. I see the slide and I'm like, oh, they were probably going to show that anyway. So I think this is so cool. I'm just got to say, thank you guys.
Yeah, there's something with tarot in it. We're a bit less mystical with the stories, I must confess. But there is a thing with the deeper archetypes that actually make that we can all relate to what is deeply human in these stories. And we try to be at a bit more intermediate level between the highly abstract archetype and the very concrete experience, so people can somehow relate to their normal own experience at the workplace.
In tarot, we tend to use, when I use tarot artistically, I tend to use tarot to make stories. That was the connection. So you can put on one of the exercises is, for example, you give to every performance one tarot for an improvisation in a part of the space. So he has a text, for example, and he gives that type of character to an improvisation in that part of the stage, so it locates it there, and you can use it to, you know, to shape stories. So in that sense, made me think that you will end up with less than 100, not because the combination can be more, but because, yeah, that sounds possible.
Yeah,
Anyway.
thank you.
Do you guys have any plans for like an open API or being able to allow other platforms to integrate with this?
Exactly.
Next step, next point.
Oh, it's already happening. I mean, you have seen different platforms using the StoryMatcher. They all point to the same backend, where we have our story treasure, like in form of different data sets in a multiple database. And people indeed can connect to our stories with an API. And we will be actually issuing a plugin that people can use for free to make their own storylines. So that will, of course, they need to register with us so we can give them API points and things like that. And then the moment they do more developed services with the StoryMatcher, we want to be part of it. But you can already have your storyline and see what you can learn or so. That will be a thing we don't deliver yet for the world, but we are about to work on. So at the latest August next year or so, this will be available for any website on the world to allow their users to get their own story profile and see a few corresponding opportunities offered to them.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
I can also add one more thing here that, like in addition to the APIs that are residing on Reiner's backend, on Shala's end, when we built this front-end app, that is interfacing with Reiner's APIs, we actually built it as a standalone application, like an iframe that can be like ported to any other platform, to keep with our principles of building this network, right? So we have that, and that's actually, so if you're interested, we can give you a link where you can download that, and you can actually just integrate that into your own platform. And that's already available. And then as a next step, what we're also trying to do is when Charlotte's migrating to Solid, so we're in the middle of moving all of our user identity data into pods that are hosted by Solid, Solid servers that are external to us. So once that happens, then you are actually going to be able to access a larger repository of users, right? Because these are users that are not only using Shala, but also users that are on other networks, and they all will use the same universal APIs and data structures. And so that'll also increase the scope of the data coming in and the users that are interfacing, creating even more powerful connections. So that's also something we expect down the line. And then last I'll add this. So right now you only have about 13, 14 users in that trusted seed circle where you're testing this out. I will still encourage you to honestly do the StoryMatcher and complete it, because we have a few hundred users on Shala that is outside of trusted seed. And what we're working on right now is to create a circle where everyone can come together and already be able to see a bigger, bigger sample size and filter their matches. So that's going to come soon, and then that way you'll be able to test that out there as well.
Awesome.
Yeah, I saw Wendy's question on learning and development. There is in the stories there is an implicit correspondence to the type of wisdom that you are representing. And there's different scales how you can sort wisdom. We are using a specific one to interpret that wisdom level in the story, so to speak. And one criterion for a good match towards a teacher or a coach or a mentor for any given person is they should be holding a more differentiated view on the world than yourself, so you can actually learn something from them, not the other way around. Especially that shouldn't be a boss of yours who actually has a more limited scope on understanding the world than yourself. So that's a criterion we can actually follow with the story selection people are doing. It's not very precise, but it's precise enough to give a good order of ranking. So the same holds true for learning offers in general. So if there are invitations for seminars, depending on who is giving the seminar and what the way how the seminar is organized is like a set of stories that basically correspond to that seminar or to that learning offer. So in that sense, where you are with your selected stories and where the seminar is positioned, we can recommend you, for where we see through your stories the way how you think, the way how you perceive the world makes sense for you, and where we see the seminar is actually situated at, it's a high match because you might be provoked a bit to open your mind a bit more than you usually do. That is what good learning is all about. And we would not give a high ranking for you to learn stuff where you feel like, oh my God, you're past that. You will feel like bored and restricted all the time and you want to skip out. So what we are doing as we speak is we have a big seminar place who are testing this with people who are actually taking part in seminars. They give feedback on how bored they were in the course or how excited they were in the training, and we compare this with their StoryMatcher findings to make sure this is not just an hypothesis of ours but actually works in practice. So we can back that up with a few more data in a few months. So the test is running as we speak.
Yeah. How many minutes do we want to spend on this more? Is there any idea? And many more questions. I see that Wendy has another one put into the chat. We can follow up on this, or well, before we have another point, as Roman said, I will encourage you to yes, go on to the trusted.shala.us platform and do the StoryMatcher, and also invite your friends from the conference inside, and to make the percentage really count so that it works. And another thing is, yes, we would like to ask for permission to stay in contact with you by using the mail address you put onto the Shala platform. I think Roman has something to say about that, because there's some newsletter system already implemented in the platform. So when you want to be updated, then
Yeah, so we have I think at some point we'll also have another follow-up webinar on what Shala can actually offer.
All right.
People here. So but for the moment, if you were to go to shala.us, there's actually a place for a monthly newsletter. But I mean, if you're okay with it, I'll actually invite you guys also there, so that everyone's I mean, we just email people once a month, and that's it, and not more than once a month. So we share any updates, and usually because we are a community, we are a commons. So a lot of the development, like we just saw, like Reiner and StoryMatcher is another entity that has come with us, and sort of like joined at the hip as one company. And so the same way, there are other initiatives also happening where people are coming to us, and we are all working together to create more solutions like this. So you're also welcome to do the same, and then there's this great potential for us to cross-pollinate the solutions and create something that is bigger than the sum of everything. So yeah, so we will keep you posted about these developments at least once a month. And sorry, not more than once a month.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe we can hear like a final comment from each of you to close and round this up. How is this landing, this experience with you? Where do you see the potential? Where do you see the world ending with this? Whatever comments come to your mind are welcome now.
If I may give you a little bit of feedback, I find it interesting the way you construct the algorithm for the story matching with finding stories. It's interesting, and it's a very good idea. It sounds really that has potential. The thing that I would like to understand better is this connection with the platform way of thinking, that for me is a bit a big limitation, in the sense that there are so many platforms all over the place, and so little spikes. So, and always like you are on a flat platform. So this is a little bit the thing I would like to know more about before committing more than a test. I see very much the potential in big conferences, like a conference with 600 people, 1,000 people attending, as a sort of matchmaking kind of thing. If you have a day, how you choose the 50 people, 20 people you want to meet and talk with. So I see a lot of user cases that come out, but as a big platform like a social network, I'm more perplexed, also because of the problem of profiling, in the sense that you can be profiled very well in your behaviors with this kind of system, and maybe you don't feel like being profiled. That's a little bit of the story. Thank you very much for your presentation anyway.
So if you could hear a comment of everyone, a checkout message. Thank you, Federico.
I think it's amazing. I think it's obviously got a lot of potential, especially sort of opposite of what Federico just said, the cross-pollination, like the super large networking effects of even possibly being able to, you know, someone that's so out of any of my groups, you know, out of my network, that somehow, you know, eventually we can find each other on your platform is very interesting. And off the top of my head right away, I'm just very interested in it as far as onboarding with my own community, sort of like a super powered version of what Unconference did. Yeah, I can't wait to play with it. I think it's a really cool idea. I think we need dating apps like this. I have lonely friends, and I think this is a very nice way to do it. So I think this is very cool. A lot of applications.
Stefan, just I know you're going to urge, and then you're going to tell us to wrap up. So I'm going to jump in. I share the view. I think it's super exciting, and having spent 150 years in corporations, as Federico once said, as a mastodon, I can see lots of applications for that. I'm not sure that's desirable for you, but I can see it. And I love the idea in a conference of 20 people. Use cases would take me a little longer. I need more reflection time because I am a mastodon. And I hadn't thought of being concerned about the profiling. I think there are probably legit concerns, as Federico says. And so be it. There's stuff to worry about. Yeah, there's stuff to worry about. And I'd love to see if I can help in any way. So maybe I'll connect with you guys afterwards. And I've got 1,000 years of L&D in large corporations and lots of other stuff, plus these past 2 years in Web3. So I'd love to see if I can help in some way.
Yes, what about our other two co-hosts? Do you want to add something to it?
Sure, I can take it. Yeah, I love this new platform. I feel like there's a lot of potential there, especially for the newcomers. I've been in this when I started joining the Web3 space, I don't know where to start. And I feel like being part of this, having this new tool is like it makes easier for people new in this space to get involved and get and feel more some sense of belongingness, when you start to connecting to people who share the story as yours. So yeah, and I feel like this can also help us find like the right people that because this community is so huge. It's so and you don't know who really to talk to, right? But I feel like if you read something that you have a common experience, it's a good starter for conversation. And yeah, I think it's very useful, especially for the newcomers in this space. And thanks for that presentation. I pass it to you.
Yeah, thank you so much for showing us this great platform. I think actually I remember when I joined Trusted, the idea of having like this kind of Tinder to help others to connect each other was something that we would like to have, and now we have the opportunity to have it and taste it and try it and connect with other participants during the conference. So this is great. This is something fantastic. I love it. So and I think you did a great job. I mean, creating the stories, all the job that is behind this is great. So congrats for that. I really appreciate you yeah, showing this. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you all for your enthusiastic participation and your wonderful comments at the end. We really don't want people to be profiled against their will, Federico, so we share your concern, and that's why we keep the API separate from the front end, so people cannot get access to the user data or the user selection of stories directly. They only get specific results that we have pre-agreed with them beforehand. So we're not making it easy for the big companies to just exploit data in an illicit way. But the concern is to be kept awake for the next 100 years to come. I mean, you never know what happens. So thank you for reminding us. And indeed, I'm very curious about all the possibilities that you are seeing. And yes, I would love to date based on a dating site that would actually use the StoryMatcher. Indeed, I'm a frustrated user of dating sites as much as all of us, I think. Yeah, thank you.
Roman, yeah. You good?
Yes, thank you, everyone.
Okay,
Thank you for the opportunity.
it's great to have you here.
Mm.
Thanks a
Thanks,
lot.
everyone.
Enjoy the Unconference.
Wendy, you can stay a
Yeah.
bit
Yeah.
longer in the room and we can just chat a bit more and end
Bye,
the
guys.
recording
guys.
here.